It started like any other morning on Capitol Hill, but by the time the sun set, the political landscape had shifted forever. Cameras flashed, reporters scrambled, and a stunned silence spread through the corridors of Congress. The reason? Senator John Kennedy had just dropped what many are calling the most explosive revelation in recent political memory, evidence so undeniable, so meticulously documented, that it could very well spell the end of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's once meteoric career. For months, whispers had circulated, quiet murmurs of inconsistencies, hidden connections, and questionable decisions behind closed doors. Most dismissed them as political noise. After all, the fiery congresswoman from New York had built her image on transparency, youth, and idealism. She was the voice of a new generation, passionate, unfiltered, and unapologetically bold. To her supporters, she was a symbol of courage against the system too slow to change. To her critics, she was reckless, inexperienced, and dangerously radical. But when Senator John Kennedy stepped up to the podium, holding a thick folder of documents under his arm, even his harshest opponents leaned in. Known for his Southern charm and sharp wit, Kennedy had earned a reputation as a man who didn't speak unless he had the facts, and on this day, he had more than that. He had proof. The press conference began quietly. No grand theatrics, no raised voice, just the steady cadence of a man who knew the weight of what he was about to say. For months, I've watched the American people being misled, he began, and I can't, in good conscience, stay silent any longer. With that, he placed the evidence on the podium: bank records, private communications, and internal memos that appeared to show a pattern of decisions made not for the people, but for personal and political gain. The room erupted, cameras clicked like gunfire, reporters shouted questions, but Kennedy remained calm, repeating only, "This isn't about politics, it's about truth." Within hours, the story dominated every major news outlet. Social media exploded. Supporters of AOC called it the smear campaign. Her detractors called it justice finally catching up. The divide was sharp, emotional, and raw. Meanwhile, inside her New York office, AOC reportedly gathered her closest allies. The woman once known for her fiery confidence now faced the toughest moment of her career. Those present described her as shaken but defiant. "They think they can scare me into silence," she said, voice trembling yet resolute, "but I've faced worse than this. I won't back down." The next few days were chaos. Committees formed, investigations launched, commentators dissected every line of the evidence. Kennedy, however, stayed mostly silent, letting the documents speak for themselves. "The truth doesn't need defending," he said in one brief interview. "It just needs daylight." What made the situation even more gripping was the human side, the emotional toll on both sides of the aisle. Staffers who once idolized AOC now faced uncertainty. Friends avoided calls. Allies hesitated to defend her too strongly, unsure what new revelation might come next. For a moment, Washington felt less like a battleground of ideas and more like a theater of heartbreak. And yet, amid the chaos, something profound happened. Americans, regardless of party, began asking deeper questions about accountability, honesty, and integrity in leadership. The story wasn't just about two politicians locked in conflict, it was about a nation wrestling with truth itself. AOC eventually addressed the public. Her voice was measured, her tone emotional. "I know many of you feel disappointed, confused, even betrayed," she said, "but I ask you, don't lose faith in the idea of public service. If mistakes were made, they will be corrected. If lies were told, they will be exposed. But I have never stopped fighting for the people who sent me here." It was a speech filled with both vulnerability and determination, a glimpse of the woman behind the political symbol. But by then, the tide had turned. Public trust was fractured. Even some longtime supporters admitted that the evidence presented by Senator Kennedy was difficult to ignore. As weeks passed, committee hearings turned into televised spectacles. Kennedy's careful patience contrasted sharply with AOC's emotional appeals. It became more than a political battle, it was a moral crossroads. Could ideals survive without integrity? Could truth coexist with power? In the end, the fallout was massive. Resignations were filed, alliances shifted, and the media declared it the end of an era. Kennedy, calm and composed, simply said, "All I did was tell the truth did the rest." And for millions watching, the message resonated beyond politics. It reminded people that leadership isn't about charisma or applause, it's about character. That sometimes, standing for what's right means standing alone. Whether one views Senator Kennedy as a hero or a disruptor, and AOC as a victim or a cautionary tale, one thing is certain: this was more than just a political scandal. It was a story about accountability, resilience, and the enduring power of truth. As the final headline faded and the cameras turned elsewhere, both figures were left to face their own reflections. Kennedy, the man who exposed what many refused to see; the woman whose rise and fall became a mirror of a generation's hope. In the end, the lesson echoed far beyond Washington: power fades, but truth endures. And when the lights go out, the only thing that still shines is integrity.